Alright, so Alexa's actually really good.
To do my best.
She's one of the best DPS units for Wyvern. She is also pretty okay in Abyss. Her S1 does a really good job at just dealing damage with Daydream Joker equipped, because it procs it twice as long as she crits. She can also apply poison, which is honestly more useful in Abyss than Wyvern. You'll usually have her skills turn off in Wyvern. And her S3 is actually pretty bad. It's an interesting start, actually. So right now Basar is one of the best leads for Arena, because his S3 is pretty stacked. Reduces the enemy combat readiness by 30%, dispels all their buffs and makes them unable to be buffed for 2 turns. It's very, very strong, and you can soul burn it for 20 souls to ignore effect resistance. And there is an artifact called Tagahel's Ancient Book that he can wear because it's a mage artifact, that when it's plus 30 it'll give you 20 souls at the start of combat. So you can just do this and he doesn't need any stats other than speed. That said, if you want to soul burn for damage, you will need a second Tagahel, but they do stack, so if you have another mage, you can do that. Daydream Joker is super good. This is your go-to DPS artifact for both Wyvern and most of Abyss. Moonlight Dreamblade is also really solid. It's very popular in the PvP meta, especially in Guild Wars. On defense, you can put this on a variety of different thieves, and it's really annoying to deal with. Aureus is very strong. It gives a knight damage soaking for your whole team, and also gives you a team-wide 10% defense buff. This role also has Clury, which Aureus is really good on. She's not really a tank knight so much as sits in the sidelines with Aureus Knight and makes your whole rest of your team way better. She has self-CR on S1, she has passive AoE healing on S2, and she has a 100% chance after Stigma investment to Deathbreak and Provoke for 2 turns. A 2-turn Provoke is very strong, and combining that with Deathbreak is super useful. Gloria is really the go-to Deathbreaker, I think. She is just a fantastic support unit for PvE, and she's quite good in PvP as well. Soul Burn is 20 souls to ignore effect resistance. You'll probably never use that. She does have a specialty change that just makes her way better, but she's already quite good as is. As far as the rest of this, Sira Ren's not really very useful. Here's what it does. And the rest of these are not great. Adelaide is interesting, especially if he gets a specialty change soon. Because he's like a mini Judge Kisei, right? He can increase guild cooldown to buy you a turn in PvP. And he does a big AoE nuke. I'm interested to see how he performs with max skill enhances. But I'm probably not going to be the one to build him. The only thing that's really interesting here is Dust Devil. It's a really strong thief artifact, just for damage, but we don't have a 5-star thief here to pair it with. If I got this and Vildred, I would probably keep it with nothing else. Ancient Sheath is also pretty good. It does sort of the same thing Dust Devil does, but worse. Or it just makes your S1 do more damage. There is the boy himself, Vildred, widely considered the best thing you can get from Selective Summons. And that's just because he's the best farmer and he enables Banshee and Asthmatic in a really big way. He's very strong and could consider any role with Vildred, really. This role has Hazel. Hazel's a pretty good healer now that you can enhance her for free. I think, anyway. And she has a specialty change that makes her really good. but she really shines the most when you're using a lot of fire units. Terranor Guard is kind of your Wyvern all-star unit. He is just the best at Wyvern. He's pretty good outside of Wyvern too, and I think he camps okay for raids. It's a 75% chance to decrease defense for 1 turn, and he gets a boosted dual attack chance by 10% at max, putting him at 15 base. And every time he dual attacks, he increases combat readiness of all allies by 25%. And he gets increased attack. It's just a super, super strong unit. And the fact that you can skill enhance these for just Catalyst and Stigma, it's pretty OP now, I think. I'm not taking that role because I would start with the Vildred role if it was better than that, but I think that I want Tywin. Montmorency is pretty lackluster as a healer until you get her to 50 and finish her specialty change. There are a couple runes in her skill tree for her specialty change that make her just the best healer in the game. So she won't do you great during story on your first clear, but once you can specialty change her, she is just, you need to do it. She's just the best. Helga's pretty interesting too, because she has a speed imprint, so she can bring an AoE attack buff for your arena team and make your pusher go faster. Terranor Royal Guard, not to be confused with Terranor Guard, is pretty garbage. Misty Chain is another great unit for Wyvern. She's very good at filling the same role as a second healer, but with extra damage. So generally for Wyvern, you'll have a tank, which is sometimes also a healer, if they can solo heal. Then you'll usually have a support unit, which is usually the backup healer that keeps your tank alive, whether the tank is a Soul Weaver, or a Knight, or a Warrior. And then you have 2 DPS. Misty Chain fills the second healer role, but is also DPS. Her S1 and S3 heal all allies for a proportion of the damage she deals. And her S3 also grants Revive, which I didn't know until recently. And then her S2 actually gives decreased attack. And attack break's really good on Wyvern because he hits 3 times per turn. So it reduces damage by a lot. She's quite solid. I really don't like Water's Origin. I think it's not very useful. Kiris is really good at Abyss because she inflicts poison, and a lot of poison. Can use Kiris in one of the Guardians called Cromcruise to get some pretty insane burst in Abyss and just cheese out some floors really easily. She also takes like no stats at all, she just needs speed and effectiveness. Not even speed really, you can have health and effectiveness. That doesn't matter at all. Judith is kind of interesting, Carmine, Rose, and Hazel. Judith is a CR booster. She's pretty solid at it. I think she has the highest base speed of CR boosters, and she increases by 30%. So she's just overall really good at it. Requires a lot less investment than alternatives as well. Carmine Rose is just a very strong single target mage with self-sustain. She can self-buff, including defense, which is part of her sustain. The spell here decreases combat readiness, which is pretty cool, I guess. Gives her speed buff and decreases the enemy's speed. And her S1 is, it's got lifesteal on it. So she's just a pretty solid, she's more of a bruisery DPS, but her self-sustain makes her a really good unit. Dom is getting a buff soon, but I don't know that it's going to be enough. I really like Dom, but it's kind of hard to justify using her. Takahel, as I mentioned earlier, gives you souls at the start of battle. It's almost a hard requirement for doing higher level PvP, at least in Arena. Somewhat GVG as well. On cleave teams in particular, it's basically a hard requirement. Ruzid is another CR booster. I think he's probably more popular than Judith, just because he has a specialty change that makes him a little bit better. But I don't think his specialty change actually makes his S3 any better for his allies. I don't quite remember. It mostly just gives him a few more points in base speed. Still like 2 or 3 behind Judith. But the thing that sets him apart from Judith is the speed buff that he gives your team. So it makes their follow-up turns after the first if you don't kill come by quicker. He also has an attack break and a speed debuff. Rod of Amaryllis, probably the best raw healing Soul Weaver artifact. This is really good on your Soul Weavers. You put this on Angelic Montmorency, that's her specialty change. And she is just a god. Unfortunately, I don't think it's worth taking artifacts as your 5-star. Highlight Glance is pretty okay whenever someone on your team is hit, except for the person holding Highlight Glance. It will increase their combat readiness. Don't think Infinity Basket's very good. Tonfa's quite good. This is gonna be your go-to artifact on your cleaver for cleave teams in Arena. Just makes them do more damage if the enemy's above 50% health. Forget where this caps, it might be something like 15%. Ravi, I think, she's a pretty solid bruiser, but at the same time, I still think she's one of the weaker 5-stars in the game right now. I would never take her from Selective. Unless you really like her, of course. Carrot is very interesting, and I want to try Carrot on this account. She has a specialty change, and I just really like her kit. I want to try her. Butcher Corpse also has a specialty change, and I think he's really good, but he has super high gear requirements, so I probably won't ever be using him. Araminta is someone I think is worth considering taking from Selective. She is pretty good now after her recent buffs. She has team attack buff. She has most of her damage comes from burns. She has AoE. She can farm. She's pretty solid. I think she's weaker than the other top tier options, but I could see people liking Araminta enough that it makes up for the gap. I think she's a solid choice. I always forget what this one does. I think Ranger artifacts are in a weird place right now where they're all kind of okay, but most of them aren't worth using. Yeah, it's not great. Candle's interesting. I think this is the first one we've seen. This is your go-to artifact for Soul Weaver tanks, which is usually you're going to be having your Soul Weaver tank. And this artifact is part of the reason that all started, because it gives them a chance to reduce their cooldown, which gets their heals up more. Very strong artifact, especially on Soul Weavers. Especially if the Soul Weaver is tanking. Sid does pretty big damage. He's a great single target DPS unit. He is all about speed and just hits people really hard and goes first. And he even has a speed imprint. It's a very solid unit. So Says, I think, is still one of the best things you can take from Selective. You kind of have to settle. I like Says a lot, but I don't use him on my main anymore. I actually started with Says on my main from Selective. He has great farming capabilities. He's great at arena cleave because of his S3. It's just pretty well-rounded as a unit. He can farm. You can get away with using him at Wyvern. Since if you take him, he's probably going to be your first 6-star anyway. You'll want to use him at Wyvern for a little while. He's okay there. By no means is he the best. There are multiple 3-stars that are better than him. There are multiple 4-stars that are better than him. However, I think that he's still one of the best starts you can have. Wondrous Potion is actually also just a super good artifact. I think it lost a little bit of its usefulness because of how consistent Angelic Montmorency's cleanse is. That said, I would still always keep at least one of these at plus 30. And Strek Gauntlet is just effect resist when above 50% health. It's okay sometimes. Sometimes you'll use it. Mostly in PvP. This is honestly an okay roll. If it had some sort of reliable healer, which Jet's healing all comes from continuous healing, which is a buff that can be stripped, and I don't like that. His passive though is really good. It's like a free potion vial that stacks with potion vial. So like Jet wearing potion vial is actually really good for Banshee, because you get poisoned a lot and you need to cleanse those. He also has a speed imprint. Shuri, how far he's fallen. Shuri used to be one of the best support units in the game because of his passive, which increases his allies' combat readiness every time he crits. But no one seems to really use him anymore because we just have better options. I still think he's quite strong. Mostly for PvE. He's okay as a secondary booster in PvP. I honestly don't even know what else Fist does. Yeah, okay. I'm probably going to forget that again soon. Increases hit chance by 10%. Oath Key is a solid artifact. This could help you out when you only really have one reliable DPS early on, and like if you're a blue and you're trying to hit greens, for example, this will make you hit more often. Having one of these at plus 30 is also pretty important for high level PvP, especially in Guild Wars specifically. Roman. I have not seen this unit in actually forever. Caster's combat readiness. Caster's combat readiness. He has dispels. I think Roman's thing is that he's mostly just a dispeller. He decreases combat readiness. Increases his own combat readiness. I think he's mostly a dispeller and we just have way better options now. I'm starting to wonder if I should have taken that Vildred. Etika Scepter. 25% chance to decrease skill cooldown by 1 turn at the beginning of battle. I believe this maxes at 50%. A lot of people really like this artifact, but it's not, it doesn't feel as consistent as I would like. And mind you, I do only have like a +0 one on my main, but that's because I don't like it. It should be really strong. Mages honestly don't have very good artifact options. They're all kind of supporty. Wind Rider, I think, is one of the worst 5-star artifacts currently. It's just not good. It used to be very strong on Sez for cleave teams, but a bug fix made it so that that doesn't really work anymore. Now it's pretty not great. Leo, I think, is solid. I'm not sure why more people don't use this guy. It's pretty good. I guess his percents are just not quite high enough. Because S2 is 100% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns, but it's you have to Mullagora it because he's 4-star and single target. He only has a 75% chance to stun on S3. Decreasing speed. If you were going to use him, it would be for this skill here. I've seen some teams that use him to apply Death Break and target it in the same turn using Song of Stars. I guess that's all he's really good at. Dingo is a joke. I don't think this unit is very good. I don't even really know what any of these skills do. It's kind of a joke of a character. That brings us to the end. So I actually think the best role I got in this selective summon was the Bizarre one. And I questioning whether I should have taken that. Probably I should have just taken Vildred. But the Bizarre one was really good and interesting. This roll is pretty okay. Hellcutter is a decent artifact for warriors. Malgrass Tome's pretty good Soul Weaver artifact. Destina is one of the good Soul Weavers. She's very strong. However, taking a Soul Weaver as your 5-star feels a little bad. Especially when we don't really have a DPS alternative. This is another Sez roll. Comes with Hellcutter and Carrot. It's really not enough, especially since I don't want to use Sez again. I don't think I've mentioned Crozet before, but he's actually one of the best knight tanks for Wyvern 11. That said, you can get him for free from Connection, so he would never be consideration on your roll screen. There is Tywin, the man himself. So currently I think Tywin might be the best thing you can take from Selective. He's not really going to speed up your farming at all. But what he is an AoE defense breaker, which doesn't have a 3 or 4-star alternative. He has a CR boost that also gives attack and crit chance buff for 2 turns. 30% CR, it's very good. He can burn this for an extra turn for 20 souls, so he can do both of these in 1 turn. And his S1 also strips, which is good for Asthmatic. It's pretty good in guild versus guilds. I think he's a very solid unit, and if I get a good roll with him before I get a good roll with Vildred, I'll definitely take him. But this is not that role. Abyssal Crown is an artifact that is very strong on specific units. However, the main one that comes to mind was Dizzy from the Guilty Gear collab, who you can't get anymore currently, so... Caladra is the only DPS-oriented mage artifact. Shamadras is a strong Soul Weaver artifact. As long as someone on your team is wearing this, I mean it can only be a Soul Weaver, but as long as there's a Soul Weaver on your team wearing this, all healing received by all allies is increased by the effect chance. Rose is a pretty good, if you need a secondary CR booster, her base speed is only 98, so she can't really be a primary booster for even really mid-tier arena, so you have just insane gear. But she gives attack buff, and she can give an extra 25% CR. So if you have a really slow DPS for your cleave, then running her behind like a Judith or Ruzid could help a lot, and I did that for a while on my main. She is otherwise not very useful, however. It's another pretty okay role. If you like Araminta, you could take this pretty happily. It's got Mont. You can get away with using Adelaide for a while, I'm sure, if you wanted to. Araminta's pretty solid. You've got Daydream Joker. Got Hellcutter for later. I don't know if I've mentioned Rosa. It's kind of one of the best ranger artifacts. Gives you dual attack chance, and when you attack on a turn that's not your own, you'll have 30% increased attack. It's a pretty decent roll as well. It doesn't have a 5-star, but it has Angelica and Clarissa, who are both very strong 4-stars. Angelica is still one of the best healers in the game. Arguably the best, still. She provides more healing than Montmorency. Also can put up immunity team-wide, which is something Montmorency has to burn 20 souls to do. Angelica does it as well as Montmorency without the soul burn, and if she does soul burn, she gets 4 turns instead of 2. Also, her heals get better the more health she has, whereas Mont's don't scale. At least not with anything you can give Mont. And Clarissa's really solid. She does take Malagora investment to be very useful because you want the effect chance in her S1. She kind of needs extra damage on passive and stuff if you want to cleave or farm with her. But you could go down to +4 on S1 and then she'd be really good at Wyvern as a Deathbreaker. But at the same time you could just use Terran Guard for free, so. That is the end of the line yet again. I don't think this had any very good rolls. The Araminta one was okay. Iceria is a pretty good consideration. And honestly, this roll is decent. Adamant Shield's pretty useful. Carmane Rose, Carrot, Ruzid. Iceria is a hero that's just going to get better and better over time because she has a ally skill reset in her kit, and she does Death Break as well. And actually, this gives her an extra turn, so she can do both in one turn. She can also, if you're stuck, use 10 souls to guarantee a death break with S1. That is assuming she has the effect chance from Malagora. She's a really, really strong unit, and one of the better things you can take from Selective. This is very tempting. Let me just spend the rest of the resources I have right now. So I would consider this. Clary is really nice to have. Hopefully this account gets a good roll. Because Clary is actually super good. Janna is useless. She's potentially the single worst unit in the game currently. All three heroes, that's nice. All three new as well. Butcher Corpse, I mean, this is a spec change. To be honest here, this is good enough. I could take this and be happy with it. I don't think Iceria is what I want. I'm only like sort of inclined to take this because it comes with Carmine Rose and Carrot, and for that reason I think I'll pass. This is a really useful ranger artifact. You can I think it's 100% at plus 30. Maybe like 75 at plus 15. Not too sure about that. It can, the targeted debuff is plus 15% damage, I believe. Should mention Akata is like the second best 4-star healer, right after Angelica. She's pretty solid. She has a AoE Dispel. She can give invincibility for 1 turn. And her healing is proportionate to her max HP, so she ends up being able to tank and stuff as well. Also, attack break is probably more useful than Angelica's stun, especially given it has a higher effect chance, I think. Don't recall what Angelica's is, but 50% chance to 50% to attack break is pretty decent. Silk is a unit that people used to use a lot. She is okay, but you can get her from connection, so. Even if it was worth taking any artifacts, Holy Sacrifice wouldn't be one of them. It's good on like almost exclusively Crow, who you can't even get from Selective. Decided Hazel, Carmine Rose. We already got Clary, but and Angelica. Bloodstone is just the support ranger artifact. I forget if I've mentioned this already. It makes rangers heal for a portion of the damage they deal. It's pretty good. Not bad at all. Bell and Cezanne is a bit of a laughingstock. He's actually okay, but no one seems to use him. What's his death break chance? 85? And unhealable? It's like, it's pretty okay, but if I was going to take a death breaker from selective summons, I would be taking Taiwan for sure. Ludwig is a good cleaver, but he takes a bit of setup. He needs someone paired with him to give him invincibility. He can get it on his own when he casts his S2, but that's really slow, so you prefer to give it to him first turn. This is a pretty amazing role if your only goal is Wyvern. Alexa, TG, Chloe. Chloe's not really good at much, but she does have an exclusive equipment that gives her Death Break on S3. And Magic Bolt is a pretty effective debuff. She's pretty okay overall, but she needs a little more help than just the exclusive equipment gave her. Durandal gives you combat readiness when attacked if your health is less than 75%. It's an okay artifact for warriors. It's particularly good on certain ones such as Assassin Cartuja. And just slow warriors in general. Oh man. This is hard because Ken is probably one of the best things that you can take from Selective. He's only single target, and he doesn't do much well outside of like getting you through story and being pretty good at GVG defense. But like, he's so easy to build. He's technically good at Golem. He'll help in Abyss. He's not the best farmer, but you can use one of the new 3-stars that they added recently called Lena as your farmer, which was my plan if I ended up taking Tywin. This stands out a lot because it comes with a lot of things that I would use, right? Like, I probably use Akades here. I probably use Sid. I probably use Ken. I might use Misty Chain. I want to use Carrot. It has Daydream Joker. It has Judith. I was not planning on taking a Ken roll, but I am getting a little tired of rerolling. Infinity Basket is shiny, but I mean, it's kind of laughable. That said, I could put this on like Furia. Well, if I was running a Ranger and Terra Norgard on my Wyvern team, this could give Terra Norgard even more dual attack chance. What Rangers are there? Is that even a good idea? Not really. Like, the only viable ones really are Furious and Luna, or Yuna, for Wyvern. It's a little unfortunate. I mean, Seaside Bologna, I guess, but... Huh. It's a really good roll. If I didn't specifically really want Tywin, I would definitely take this. It's actually very hard to turn this down. So who knows when I'm gonna see another roll quite like this one. I can even run Misty Chain as like a pseudo healer. What would the plan be? Misty Chain, see. If I were to make a Wyvern team with this account rule, I'd probably run Clary for general use support and then swap her out for Misty Chain at Wyvern. Although something interesting about Clary is that she can actually work until Wyvern 10. And then once you get to 11, you would probably want to swap her out. But her Death Break actually isn't an attack, so it doesn't have hit chance. Like, it can't miss. You're going to be able to provoke fires with this, I believe. I think I'm going to keep this roll and see how it goes. I cannot in clear conscience skip this. So we will keep that.